Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm iamxeracon here with another video. Sadly, I don't know why I'm even here right now. Said last time that wasn't going to be doing any more videos for 2017 and I would see 2018, but here I am now. And in fact, I'm actually going to be doing two videos, one after one right after this one. Um, which did I decide this is going to be again? Yeah, this is gonna be me talking about, well, you already know what it's about because it's on the description. But yeah, so, yeah, I'm back again. I'm gonna do another video. I'll be linking that in the description below. It's gonna be talking about the possibilities of Metroid Prime 4. I mean, not it occurring, but what's actually could happen with it since we know next to nothing about it, except it's in development. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about Bionicle, The Search for One, which is a Netflix series, uh, 2 seasons, only 3 episodes each, so you can watch that within less than 3 hours, maybe possibly just like 2.5, I think. But yeah, so I watched that today. I just found out about that it was a thing. I'm not sure how long it's been out. But I just found out about it today, and I was like, what? It's a Bionicle series? And then I found it was about the reboot that happened a year or so ago. Um, and that also reminds me, I never did finish the Bionicle story in its chronological order. I should go back and do that because it's been 2 years since I last did. Let me see. Uh, yeah, it's been almost 3 years, almost 3 years since I've done that. So yeah, I should definitely go back to doing that, and actually finish it because last time we stopped at. Wow. Oh no, we're actually not that. Oh yeah, yeah. I should definitely finish that. We're almost. Yeah, we're not that far from the end. Yeah. So yeah, I should definitely go back and finish that once and for all. But yeah. So I watched the series today, and I am going to point out things that mostly this is going to be me nitpicking over details about how stupid some things were, but all in all, though, I actually do have to admit that the series isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I went in there ready to rip this thing to shreds, but it wasn't that bad. So, what is it about? Well, it's basically, like I said, it's a reboot of the original, I guess you could say, the original Gen 1 uh, of Bionicle, which was the Toamata, trying to wake the Great Spirit Matanui, who has been asleep, cast asleep by Makuta, who at the time was saying it's Matanui's brother, but it's not. He's the member of the Brotherhood of Makuta, who, were sort of like guardians of Matanui and stuff, but that's going into the storyline, but that's different. So basically, they're trying to be honest, they don't actually explain it all that much. It's really just them saying, hey, let's get these masks and present Makuta from Awakening. Because here's the thing, in this series, Makuta and, well, there's another thing also. Matanui isn't a great spirit. Now he's just a mask maker, a great mask maker, and his name is Akimu. And they don't live on the island of Matanui anymore. It's called I think Makoto or uh, I can't remember what it is, but it's not Matanui either. It's like there's no Matanui at all in this. So Akimu and his brother Makuta were mask makers, and so they made masks of power and stuff. But then Makuta was jealous of Akimu's abilities to make masks, and he wanted to out outshine his brother. So he was trying to make an let me put this in a mask of ultimate power. If that isn't cliched, I don't. No, not cliched. It's just well, yeah, it's cliched. It's just like the mask of ultimate power, and I was like, oh my goodness, they really used that word right there, ultimate power. But so it makes a mask of ultimate power, and so then Akimu takes his sledgehammer and he bashes Makuta in the face. Okay, I really make this sound funnier than it is, but he basically hits him with the hammer. The mask flies off, and then it shatters into 6 different pieces and scatters everywhere. But Akimu and Makuta, I don't remember how this actually takes place, why this happens, but it just happens. They both fall into a deep sleep, and you're like, okay, cool. That's I guess that's how it's sort of playing around with how Matanui fell into deep slumber, even though Makuta tossed him into the deep sleep. But hey, so Akimu actually is woken up, and I was like, oh wow, so that's actually pretty cool, pretty interesting, because last time Matanui was asleep and Makuta was awake, but this time Makuta is asleep, but Matanui is awake. So I was like, that's actually a pretty, pretty nice, good spin there right now. Um, and then there are Toa who come along, and they inexplicably gain their masks of power, and it's kind of weird because they start off with just having their simple masks. Well, just having simple masks, and then, but these aren't their masks of power. But then they go on a quest to obtain their masks of power, which is a bit weird because when the original started off, they didn't have any masks at all, and so they actually had to sort of start off somewhat powerless because they didn't actually have their masks with them, so they didn't have their full potential, but they still actually had some power. They had their elemental abilities actually, that's one thing I want to talk about right now, and that's how they have all of them, the Toa, the elements, the Toa of fire, water, earth, stone, ice, but the sixth one, which we all remember as being the element of air, it's now the elements of jungle. Elements of jungle. And I was when I saw that, I was like, "What? Seriously, jungle?" And it was just weird. I mean that was one of the that's really weird to me. But yeah, so they go on a quest and they have to team up with these creatures, and each Toa has to go with a creature, and it's sort of like they're partners in a way. So if you think about the I can't remember what that gen was called, but it's when the Toa come back, they're going through Cardanui, and they're partnered with the Matoran there, and sort of like how the Matorans are like partners with them. That's sort of like what this is in a way, because it does show the creatures like grafting to the Toa and stuff, and can be used as like partners, and they enhance their abilities and stuff. So think of it like that. And also Matoran. On that subject, all the Matoran look the same. They are the same. It's just different color swaps. Like you have the same model, but then they just dyed it red, blue, green, black, white, and brown. I mean, and yeah, and they all are based off of I keep forgetting his name, Akimu's design. So very much just like a palette swaps of Akimu. Um, and here's something which I thought was stupid when I saw that when I heard this, and this was in the first episode, within the first 5 minutes or so, talking about Matoran and family and their parents. That has never been a thing in Bionicle. I don't care which story arc you're looking at. None of that ever occurred in Bionicle. Like I'm like, this is dumb and stupid. Also, here are two of the enemy creature names, Skull Scorpion and Skull Grinder. This is the reboot, ladies and gentlemen. Um, yeah, and so I guess other things to mention. Uh, the the Toa for the when you really first get to know them, they are so annoying. And even describing their traits when they're introduced, which I thought was a couple things that were weird, was the fact that Pohatu was described as serious, which I guess, yeah, the Toa understood their duties and stuff in the original, and they tried to get that done. But Pohatsu was never really considered the serious one. If anything, it was Kopaka, who was just like the really serious one. In fact, in this series, he is described as, of course, being cold as ice, but he's more of a tsundere, um, like from anime, where you have that cold-hearted individual who's really just needs to warm up to people and stuff, and really just get accustomed to people and just get to know them and stuff. And that's what Kapaka is, because he was like, whenever he's not around someone, that's when he's like, kind of, I guess you could say, like, uh, he's more fun, I guess you could say, when no one's around. Golly's most accurate representation being she's like the wise one who likes to be rational. And also, Lua, he was accurate as well as being just the most free-spirited out of the group. So yeah, those were the two who I felt were the most accurate from the original series. Now, one thing which I think was a missed opportunity here was to open up the series, because it starts out as like a story that's being told. What they should have opened with was in a time before time, because that's how pretty much the movies. Oh wow, that's not good. The movies and even some of the books started out with that in a time before time, because it's like saying like, hey, this is what happened a long time ago. But instead, it said something like, um, I think thousands or hundreds of years ago, or in a time of age, or something like that. And I'm like, oh, you missed that opportunity. Um, what else? What else am I missing here? Okay, so the animation, the animation and the models, they look nice. They look good. I can't deny that. It actually looks good. However, in the earlier parts of the series, they use 2D backgrounds, like hand-drawn, painted backgrounds with the 3D models, and it's so disjarring. It's just so jarring to be looking at them. The 2D and the 3D clash against each other. By the time the series ends, they use 3D backgrounds and stuff, and to be honest, I think Bionicle is best as a 3D instead of a 2D style. Um, it just works. I think that's the best way to actually use it, unless you're doing the comics. Then, of course, the 2D sort of representation is better than a more sort of 3D-ish. But it, it looks great, but looks decent. But yeah, the 2D earlier, that was a mess to look at. Um, oh yeah, so yeah, 3 episodes into this, and we get a not Toa of Light, even though it really is a Toa of Light. Akimu is just like, okay, I've had enough sitting on the sidelines, it's time to fight. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, cool. I guess in some ways that could be a nod to when Madanui became a Toa at the end of Bionicle Stars, which was trash, by the way. I'm not going to lie or hide anything about that. Good. All right. So let me put it like this. I'm gonna stop right and just like go on a tangent. Bionicle Mata. Let's just call that for the first like story arc, for the Gen 1. That was, I guess you could say that's the pinnacle of the series. Then you have the Bionicle Metru story arc, which we can split between the Mystery of Metronui and the Web of Shadows story arcs. Um, Metru was pretty good. It wasn't as great as Mata, but it was still good. Web of Shadows, even though there's a lot of lore that went outside of the movie, which is pretty much where a lot of the focus was at, because there was even details in like the webcomics and animations of explaining about like the Mask of Light and how that would be important. And I'm thinking to myself, that's pretty cool. That's definitely cool. So I like that expanded stuff. But as far as the core story, it wasn't that great. Now, when we got to Bionicle Ignition, that was good. That was like the resurgence of the quality of the story. Um, and then Creeps from the Deep, that was a good story arc. Probably, I would say maybe it might have been on par. You know what? I think that's a pretty good one as well. That story arc was good as well. So I think those two went hand in hand. Then as far as I think it was called Battle. I think that one was no, was that one called Battle for Power? The one where Carter Nui. That one, what? It started off a bit weak, but by the time it ended, it was like, wow, this was such. I was not expecting this at all. Um, yeah, it was so great. The ending there, but then when we got to Glatorian, and I was thinking it was just going to be a spin-off, but it was it was it was a spin-off, which then you realize was actually sort of canon, and that was kind of the problem with that, because as a side story it was fine, but then once we start wrapping things together with the everything from before, and that becomes Bionicle Stars, that was when it becomes trash, and we had an ending which was like, at that point, think of as the last season of Heroes, and then you know what Bionicle Stars was. But wow, 17 minutes. Sorry. Okay, so let's continue with this. So we get a not Toll of Light, and there's no acknowledgement of any sort of Toll of Light ever existing, considering the fact that the Toa haven't even been alive for that long. But they are able to acknowledge what a Toll of Light is upon sight, and there's no build-up or mystery like there was in the original series. Uh, Also, I want to point out the fact that we are, in some ways, getting two gens of lore crammed into one, because we are getting Metru and we're getting Mata combined. Because originally, before the explosion with the mask of ultimate power, um, everything was in a city. The entire island was like, or all the people lived in a city and stuff, and that was where you get where you get Metru Nui from the original series, and you know everyone's living in that area. So that's where you get that, and then also there's a guy who's like working for Makuta, who's trying to help him out and stuff. And it's actually interesting because Makuta, I thought was actually had a lot of influence and power, but turns out he had zero direct influence going on at all. Because I was thinking that he's asleep, and yet he's still, well, actually here he's asleep, but he's in the realm of shadow. No, the shadow realm, and if you know what that reference is to, you're going to laugh as much as I am when I first heard that as well. So, he's trying to escape the Shadow Realm, and well, and so uh, the hunter's working for himself, and he's trying to get help. Sort of like, well, he's not trying to help him because he's doing it for himself, but he's essentially helping Makuta escape from the Shadow Realm, and so that is a reference to the Dark Hunters from Gen 2, and then of course they were used later on, but it all started with Gen 2 with Nadiki and Kreka, who are the Dark Hunters. Um, so yeah, and then of course, you know, everything else fighting against the creatures and other enemies, which were referred to as Rahi, by the way, in the original Bionicle storyline. You know, a lot of these original elements and names are just getting thrown out for more generic names like Skull Crusher and Skull Grinder. Um, but yeah, so you have that going on, and what was I gonna say? So yeah, so and of course, other fact that a lot of that stuff sort of happens the um, within the Mata story arc. Now, one thing that I thought was pretty stupid was Tahu gets ambushed by by the enemies, and he gets his partner like ripped away from him and stuff, so that leaves him depowered. But then he gets disarmed and has his mask removed, and three of the Toa, I kid you not, are just watching and commenting, saying like, "Oh no, Tahu, what's wrong with him? Oh man, they're really taking him down and stuff." And then they decide, oh wait, we should probably help him out. And I'm like, what? Oh my gosh, this is so stupid. Um, but yeah, and actually, wow, I was actually going to say something along the lines of that the series wasn't actually that bad, but then looking at back what I was writing, because I actually took these notes as I was watching the series. Um, because I didn't want to forget anything when I made this video. Um, but yeah, so all in all, I can't say that the series is bad, but it's definitely not as good as the original. No doubt about that one. It's better than Stars. It's better than Glatorian. But it's not even as good as but it's not even as good as the lowest point, which I think would have been Web of Shadows. I think Web of Shadows definitely was way better than Reboot. Um, I don't know where Lego's taking it right now, because I haven't followed Bionicle. Last thing I knew was when they originally announced that they were rebooting it, and I wasn't too fond of that. And then I don't like I said, I just found about the series today, and it's only 6 episodes, I think. Well, yeah, and it does end. It does end on like an actual. It does have an actual ending to it. It's not like something that's sort of continuing. Maybe it's going to continue. I don't know if they're continuing on. Also, something to now say is the fact that most of the main plot lines and stuff were predictable. That's a downside to it. Like I could predict, oh, what's going to happen? Oh man, because he did that, this is going to happen and stuff like that. Like I was able to predict, except for perhaps the very ending. So I was thinking that there was going to be a continuation, because I was thinking like, okay, yeah, this is what they're going to do, and this is how we're going to get season 3 or whatever. And I'm like, no, actually, we're actually ending it here. So only because the fact that it is actually ending, I was surprised. But if it was going to actually continue on, then I would have not been surprised by whatever happened. Also, it's stupid the fact that in their world, six of the elements combined equals light, but even though for some reason combining the elements into a mask was forbidden and was evil, but here when they combine their elements it makes light. Although if you remember back in the Metru series, combining the 6 elements actually made Protodermis. I don't see anything wrong with that. So all in all, is the series worth watching? Well, let me put it like this though. It's harmless if you've never gotten into the series before. If you're someone who's never been a part of the original, well, even any of the... If you got in at Glatorian, yeah, I can say it's still pretty much harmless for you. It's okay for you to watch it and stuff. If you're someone who grew up with Bionicle or watched it before, it's gonna be like having, uh, like say, Coca-Cola and then going into, like, getting off-brand Coke, or off-brand cola, I should say, um, at like some random store, for example, like that. It's like getting an off-brand. That's what it's like, because it's really sort of watered down. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it's still nowhere near as good as the original series. So that's my stance on it. Take it as you will. Um, I don't regret watching it. That's what I will say. That I will definitely say I will not regret watch. I don't regret watching it. Definitely interesting, good to get some laughs like I did, especially looking over these notes. But yeah, so that's it for now. I am now going to record the Metroid Prime 4 video, so I will leave that link in the description below if you haven't checked it already. I also talked about my thoughts on Disney buying Fox Studios, and also I have a 2017 retrospective video, so you can check those out. Those will be in the description as well. So until next time, everyone, I am iamxeracon signing off. See you later. Maybe, hopefully, 2018.